Hey y'all, it's Susan with Susan's Country Living. Welcome to the country, welcome to my kitchen today. I'm glad that you stopped by. Today I'm going to be making some canned coleslaw. And it's going to be nice and crispy, I promise, because this is my second time to make it and I wanted to share the recipe with you. I canned them in these size jars and it turned out beautiful and it's crispy and crunchy and great on fish tacos, a pulled pork sandwich. You can also drain the juice from it and just add mayonnaise and you have a creamy coleslaw. So let's go ahead and let me tell you what you're going to need today to make and can this coleslaw. A medium head of cabbage. I've already taken the outer leaves off and this came from a local farmer. My cabbage in the garden's not quite ready yet, so I purchased this from him at our last farmer's market where I'm a vendor and got that for him. You're going to need 1 carrot. This is a rather large carrot. I get these at the Asian market if they don't have them at the farmer's market because they are super sweet. So you'll need that. And it's kind of a smallish medium onion. This is a sweet onion. It's not a Vidalia. I can't remember the name of it, but it is a sweet onion. And you'll need some sort of like bell pepper. And I just went out to the garden and grabbed some peppers. It says the recipe calls for 1 pepper. And since mine are kind of small, I think I'm going to do a yellow and a red for a sweet pepper. You will also need some vinegar, just 5%, some water, some mustard seeds, some celery seeds, and some sugar. You can use regular white sugar. I like to use this organic cane sugar that I get from Costco. And that's basically it. So let's start preparing these vegetables. A mandolin comes in really handy with shredding the cabbage. I do have one of those shredders that goes on the front of my KitchenAid. I've used that before. It tends to kind of clog up. I put it on the slicing function. It does grate carrots. It does a wonderful job. If I was doing a lot of carrots, I'd use that. But I'm just going to use this is a Tupperware grater. I like it because it has little measurements over here on the side. And it stands up. And you can grate on that. So first, I'm going to go ahead and start grating or slicing my cabbage. You can do this by hand. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I like to practice my knife skills. But this morning I'm going to use a mandolin because tomorrow's Thanksgiving and we are going out of town and I've still got to make a pie, a sweet potato pie. So I'm going to go ahead and this cabbage. So I'm just going to start by slicing it in half. And we're going to take the core out, and any leaves like this that come off, that can be sliced up too. And save the core for the chickens. And then I like to have shorter shreds because when they're in this jar, it's better to have the smaller pieces. So I'll probably cut this, into thirds, probably, like this. And I don't have a guard on my mandolin for my hand, so I just have to be really careful. A big bowl helps when you're using this. You can do it onto a board or a clean countertop, but I just do it right here in the bowl, and I'm going to use this cut side here. So my pieces are about that long. They're not they're not super long. The largest pieces will be. I could go ahead and cut it again, but we're just going to go ahead and use this mandolin, and I just watch little pieces that come off. I'll chop those up. And you have to watch. Don't look away if you don't have a guard on your mandolin. So you can see it cuts it into really nice, fine pieces there. It's kind of dark in my kitchen this morning. I don't know why. It's sunshiny outside. Maybe it's just the lighting here. Get rid of these little pieces. They're going to fall off. And then I just turn my cabbage another way. I'll also do the onion. I'll probably chop up the onion rather than using the mandolin. But for like bread and butter pickles, the mandolin works great on onions. But you could do this with your food processor on the slicer when you're getting the cabbage sliced up. And when I get down to this small amount, so that I don't hurt myself, I set that aside and I'll do that by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this cabbage sliced up. Okay, so now I've got all of my cabbage shredded here. And I've gone through and picked out any large pieces that might have been close to the core that you really don't want to bite into, like they're pretty tough there, and those go to the chickens. So for my onion, I've just halved them, and I'm just gonna cut and just do a not a mince, just a chop. They're about a 1/4 an inch wide. I'm not going to cut through, and just give them a chop like that. It's really important you have a good sharp knife. I'll cut that little piece separate. And spread these around. And do my other half. And I'm going to wash up. Oh, I need to grate my carrot. I'm going to grate my carrot here on this little grater. You can use. Alright, so I'm going to stop right there. I just left the top on so I didn't hurt myself, and you could cut that and have a little snack. And let's see how much this made. About 1.5 cups is what that carrot shredded up to be. So we're just going to dump it in here. So I'm going to come on around here. The chickens do love the pepper seeds. So, oh, that smells so good. Alright, so there's for the chickens. And this little membrane out. That little white membrane can be bitter. And so I want to make sure I get that out. And I just stack them and slice them into strips. Not very thick. I prefer it sweet, but my husband would like for it to be a little tartar. So I'm going to do half of this, cutting the sugar in half, and I'm going to taste it and see how it is. And if I like it, then I'll do all of it with half the sugar it called for. If it's not quite sweet enough, I'll just reduce it by 1/4. To get everything mixed up first and incorporate it. The only thing I think you could probably add too much of would be peppers, and too much onion wouldn't be good, but too many peppers I think would maybe mess the flavor up. So I'll pretty much stick with the recipe, as far as peppers. You can add as much carrots as you like. Okay, now we're going to add the salt. And it does call for 1 teaspoon of salt. So 1 medium head of cabbage, 1 large carrot, 1 green pepper, preferably a colored one, just makes it pretty. And they're a little bit sweeter. 1 small onion, I kind of use a medium small, and then 1 teaspoon of salt. I use Redmond real salt. And I'm going to sprinkle a little bit. And kind of give it a toss here. And bring the bottom up to the top. So I sprinkled about half. I should have used a half teaspoon to do this a little better. And then we're going to sprinkle here. And we're going to give a really, really good mix to incorporate that salt. I'm going to set my timer for an hour. So while that's going, I'm going to get my syrup that goes over it. You do have to put, we'll drain the water from this, and then we'll add the syrup that I'm going to make to this, and then put them in the jar. So I'm going to get my jars sterilized. This will go in the water bath for 15 minutes. I use a steam canner. So I'll get my jars ready and my syrup ready. Okay, so the hour is up and my vegetables have been sitting with the salt for an hour, letting the juice come from the vegetables. So while I was waiting on this, the recipe that I used the first time that's sweeter, what you do is you mix 1 cup of vinegar and 1/4 cup of water, 2 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of celery seeds, and 1 teaspoon of whole mustard seeds. This time I'm trying it with a cup of vinegar, 1/4 cup of water, and 1 cup of sugar, and then 1 teaspoon of celery seeds and 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds. So what I did was I put that in the pot. And I doubled mine just in case I needed to make it a little sweeter. I could add more sugar and still have enough liquid. So I boiled it, brought it to a boil, boiled it 1 minute and cut it off, and I'm letting it cool. It's still going to be warm when I pour it over the vegetables, but not boiling hot. If you did that, it would cook your vegetables quickly and they wouldn't be crispy. So we're going to let that cool a little bit. So in the meantime, we need to drain some of the water from our vegetables, and you can see that they've broken down quite a bit. I'm going to use half of this to try with my reduced amount of sugar and taste it. And I'm going to go ahead and can it because my husband said he wanted one with less sugar in it. That he likes things very tart. If I like it, I'll do it all lower sugar. So I'm going to take half of the vegetables here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball, splitting this bowl in half like that. Okay, so, and I see there's liquid down in the bottom. So I have a colander. You could use a towel. I've done this before. I've put the towel in a bowl. If you don't have a colander or a strainer or something, I put the towel in a bowl, and I've put my vegetables in there and squeezed it out. And if I have something that needs to be really, really dry, I'll do that. And it might stain my towel, but that's okay. I can, it's just part of cooking. So I'm just gonna put half these vegetables in the colander here. So scoop it up without making a mess. And I'll press on these. You could even get, well, you don't want to break down the cabbage too much. I wouldn't use a potato masher. Just something maybe with a flat bottom, like a plastic measuring cup or something flat. Just don't pound it because you don't want to break down that cabbage too much because you want it to stay crispy. And we'll be back to jar it up, to put the syrup and get it jarred. Okay, so I've let this drain quite a bit, and you can see the juice that's come off. I've put my vegetables into this metal bowl. The rest of mine in another colander to drain while I'm working with this. There's a big piece right there. I don't want that big piece. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to add some syrup to this. Set it right there. It's cooled. It's not cold, but it's just cool. And I'm going to be adding the syrup to my vegetables here. And then we'll jar it up. So I'm going to get some jars out. I already have my lids here, and I'm going to try something. I have a jar. I mean, this is not something that I'm promoting. That some soup came in, and I have the lid, and I'm going to process it and see if it'll seal. This is just something we're going to use, and it won't go on the shelf. It'll go directly into the refrigerator. This will be the first jar that we eat, but I wanted to see if it would seal in my water bath canner so that I can use my jars that come from the grocery store. I would never pressure can in them, just water bath, and then put it directly into the refrigerator because it just saves me a canning jar. So for the rest of it that will go onto the shelf, I will use these and I'm just going to put a little bit to heat my cabbage up of this syrup. So I'm going to give it a stir to get everything incorporated, the different seeds. And grab me almost 2 cups of it, which is about half of it. And I'm going to pour it over. And we're going to mix it in. And then I'll add more is needed to my jars to top it off because I like to have everything under liquid. So I'm just stirring here, and I'm going to taste it. But this one's going to go in the fridge. And of course, if you have something that doesn't seal, it will need to go in the refrigerator also. Now what I'm going to use is my tamper here that I use when I do ferments to give a little pressure to press that cabbage down, because you can see you get quite a bit. Now you don't want to press it too hard, just enough to give some space. And I'm just going to store that right there. Oh, I wanted to taste this. Yeah, it's not as sweet, so I think my husband will like that. I like it. I think this would be better to drain and add the mayonnaise to. Now, I could have rinsed off my cabbage after I drained it, but I found that it tastes, I like it the way it is. So this is a 1/2 inch headspace on the jars. So I'm just going to leave, I'm going to put like that much, and then a 1/2 inch headspace. I'll fill it with liquid, where that green, that's a 1/2 inch down to about right there. I'll fill it with syrup. And I have my ladle. And I'm going to fill these to 1/2 inch headspace. Then I will debubble with, I had a chopstick, there it is, with my chopstick. I've got my fire is on over here. So this did let's go ahead and add the syrup. I hope I have enough here. I'll just debubble with this here. Just go around the edge. Like so just plain white vinegar, and we're going to clean these rims really good, or the top of the glass. I already checked everything for cracks. When I made some jelly yesterday, I had one that didn't seal, and come to find out there was a little crack in the top of the jar. So I noticed it pretty quick and was able to get it into another jar and reprocess, and it did just fine. Okay, for the store-bought jar, I'm going to go ahead and use the lid. It's been in hot water for a long time, and I'm going to give it a good crank there. And my others, with the bands, you just do finger tight. And I should be able to tell if it seals because it has that give. So it's too tight. Just finger tight. Just on a lower heat. I love this thing. It's so much easier for me as I've gotten older, not being able to lift that heavy pot of water or have to bail it out and take it to the sink. If I'm doing a huge batch, I do have an Amish canner that my sons bought me for my birthday one year, which I love. I love that because when I do pickles or in the summertime when I'm doing a lot of work, I get that thing cranked up. And it's wonderful. So this is going to process once it comes up to the temperature for 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and raise the temperature. And when my dial gets up there, I'll start my timer. 15 minutes are up, and my canner has sat for 5 minutes after I cut the heat off. And I'm going to open it up here. And we're going to lift them, our jars, onto a board covered with a towel to cool. So it pretty much looks exactly like what I canned back in the beginning of October. So here's just another way for you to preserve your harvest, to have something from farm to table that is already ready and prepared, and all you have to do is pop it open and enjoy. I hope you try this canned coleslaw, and let me know in the comments how it turned out. I did mine with half the sugar. We're going to see how that works, but the full sugar one is delicious. Like I said, fish tacos, pulled pork sandwiches on beans with sausage, on a hot dog. Yeah, that would be good too. So hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for stopping by. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and push that subscribe button if you want to see more here on Susan's Country Living. Bye, y'all.